and welcome to this tutorial on how to make a simple cartoony explosion effect in Unreal 4 and 5. This tutorial will be in 4.27, but it should be applicable to any version with Niagara effects. I'm currently working on a video game called Button Pop. It's a mashup between an idle, tower defense and button masher, where you're the main button and you have to defend yourself against all the other little jealous buttons coming to get you. If you guys are interested in the game at all, go check out my other videos and devlogs. I'll be sharing a lot more of the game soon in the coming weeks, and I'd really just appreciate your guys' feedback. So yeah, with that said, let's get into the tutorial. So first things first, I've modeled this little cloud object. I made this in Maya 3D, but you can use any 3D application. You could probably even make it in Unreal just by combining some of the objects. So you'll need that to begin with, but I'll include this in a link down below. Second of all, what we're going to do is we're going to need to make two materials. One is for the little poof for the cloud, and the other one is for the shockwave that you can kind of see here. Okay, so first of all, let's make a material and say m_poof. I'm going to say v2 because I've already got poof, but yeah, we're going to go in here, bring this over here, and this is going to be really simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the particle color. And you can plug this straight into here, but what I've done is I've multiplied it by the alpha, which I tend to use the alpha as a sort of way to increase or decrease the value. So we just stick that in here, put that there, and then put it into your emissive color. Close that down. And then if we make another material, call this m_shockwave, and I'm just going to say v2 again. Open that up. And then here, what we will do is the same as before. Particle color. We'll plug this into here, and we're going to make this translucent and unlit. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to multiply and then we're going to make some little masks in here. So if you type in radial, you'll get radial gradient exponential, and we're just going to duplicate that and subtract them from each other, and just so these don't completely overlap each other, we're going to change the values just slightly coming out here. If we make a constant and maybe say 0.45, and also make another constant and make this 100, and put the density up to 100. So now if we make another constant, right click this, make it parameter, and call it outer edge, and maybe put this to 0.05, and we add this to this, and then put that into radius for this guy, and then this into radius here, and then connect this guy up, compile that, save it. We can just close that down for now. So now we should be able to go into Niagara and link some of this stuff up. So if we right click, go to FX, Niagara system, and we're just going to create an empty system. And we'll say ns underscore explosion. And again, I'll say v2. And we'll just drag this over here. And I'll open this guy up. First things first, we're going to work on these little clouds. So what we'll do is we'll add, right click, add emitter. We're just going to type in empty. Get this guy here. Delete that. And add in our mesh. And we're going to find the little poof, or, you know, whatever object you like. We're not getting in here. And that's because we need to actually spawn the emitter itself. So, or spawn the particle effect, sorry. We're going to say spawn. You can spell. And then we should have a little poof here. Now, if we go in here and click this little guy here and type in poof, you can find your material that you've made. We'll click on that. We'll say cool, and that's looking nice. If we then add velocity within cone, fix that, and set this to about 400. Set the one at the angle to about 200, and the axis to 1 on the Z, and 0 on everything else. And we add a solve velocity. It might. I think that's actually doing it now, but kind of hard to see. Yeah, so it's traveling in a direction, but we've only got one particle spawning. So if we set this to maybe like 30, yeah, cool. Next thing we need to do is add a little bit of drag to it into the particle update. Fix that. Just maybe put in 2 there. Yeah, cool. And then after that, we're going to add gravity. Oop. Gravity to the update. Again, fix that. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to get a lerp vector. And in the Z, if you put -100, and in the Z for the B channel, we put 100. And then here, we're going to put a curve for the alpha. And this is from when it begins to when it dies. So you're going to start seeing it here, but it kind of travels up near the end of its lifespan. So what we need to do is go to emitter state, because we need to make sure it actually dies. At the moment it's not really dying off very well, and we're going to just make sure this is infinite for now, so we can kind of just get enough of these. And we're going to set this to 2, just so we can get a full cycle of it. And if we go down to initial particle, click this little arrow and type in range, and say random range float, and we're going to say 3 and 1 for the lifetime. And then in the mesh scale section, we will get a random uniform and maybe say 5 and 1 here. At the moment they're all facing the same direction, so if we click on this little guy and type in initial or mesh orientation, and we click this, and range again, type in range, -1, -1, -1, which essentially means it'll start to randomize the sort of rotation of them a wee bit. The next thing we need to do is add a little bit of rotation force. So if we click the little plus again, we add rotational velocity. Fix that. Fix that. Yeah, cool. And in here, what we need is to pick an axis. I'm going to pick this and say minus 0.7. Yeah, cool. So they're starting to like rotate as they're going out. Cool, so now they're rotating as they're going along, but they're not really, they're just kind of disappearing at the end of their life cycle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little scale into the particle update channel. So if we type in scale and go to scale mesh size and click that little arrow and type in float, vector from float, and then we click that little arrow again and say curve, float from curve, and basically you can already see it here, but they'll slowly taper off and you won't really notice them spawning, despawning. But we can, you know, we're going to have to make them a little bit bigger at the very start because it is an impact after all. So if we get this first one, and here we just want to make a sort of S shape kind of thing as it kind of comes up and then back down, almost like a little mountain kind of thing. So if we put this to 0 and we right click somewhere in here and add key, and we, you know, take this one and we make this 1 and right click auto, we're going to get this sort of bend shape. And I'll make this one auto as well. And if we just grab this and pull it kind of down a bit, middle mouse click and pull it down a wee bit, you're going to get this. So they're going up and then down, you know, out like that. But you know, sometimes impacts, they don't, you know, they don't start at 0. So what we need to do is this guy needs to be much closer to here. So let's say 0.1. And then if you click this little button, you can make it a little bit bigger here. If you unclick these guys here and then right click add, and then put this to like maybe 1 or maybe 1.1 or something, so it kind of bounces up like this. Yeah, cool. Now, one of the last things we need to do here is actually add a little bit of color. So if you again click in particle update and say color, you're going to get this guy. And if you click this and say curve, you're going to get this sort of interface. For this example, I'm just going to have a sort of yellow, red to black kind of tone, and I'll just quickly do that now. But you can have any color you like. So we just click, make this sort of yellowy kind of tone maybe, and then we click again, make this a more red kind of tone, and then maybe here add in a sort of browny grey sort of thing. Yeah, cool. And then if we can get rid of that one, or change this to yellow maybe. Yeah, that's cool. And then also, instead of age, we're going to do it by distance. So if we right click, left click on that and say distance, normalize distance. We're going to have start position, end position, and distance. So our start position is going to be the position. Going to be the position of the simulation. Yep. And in this one, we're going to get the particle position. like the current particle position. And we need to get we need to roughly say a sort of distance. So let's say 300 maybe. That's it's looking alright actually. Maybe try 350. Yeah, that's looking cool. Nice. So if we save that, compile, we can have a look at our guy in here. That's looking cool. The other thing we might want to do is in here, if we just put the specularity to 0 and the roughness up to 1, you'll kind of get rid of this specular kind of look. It'll be a bit more flat, but a bit more cartoony sort of thing. We'll just try it with some shadows actually. That's looking quite nice. Nice. One of the last things we want to do is just make this velocity a little bit more random. So if we click on the little arrow and type in range float, and then make the minimum 400 and then maybe the maximum 600, and you're going to get this much more like random but natural sort of look to it. Yeah, cool. Cool. Okay, so next thing is if we add another emitter. Empty. And this time we're going to make the sort of shrapnel and the sparks and stuff like that. So I used the base cube for this. So if you type in mesh here, replace the sprite with a mesh and use the very top one, 1m_cube. And if we go to emitter update and we add a spawn instantaneous and make this maybe 0.1 and then add 5 to that, and then if we duplicate this, don't do that. We duplicate this, like Control C, Control V on the selection of that, and we make this 0 and 10. And then if we make this self, again 2, go to initial particle and make this 2, and go down to scale range and make this 0.03 and 0.07. Cool, we've got a little box here. So if we go to our particle spawn and add a cone velocity, fix that, and we add about 950-ish, 950, and an angle of 120, and again just up the way, so Z. Again, we're not really getting in. So if we go in here, we solve our velocity. That will now kind of going all over the place. Cool. We add drag to that. Again, just make that 2. Make that 2. Fix. So if we now add some scale to this, and this time do it on speed rather than just time, we'll get this. It's best maybe set this to something like 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 2, and then maybe like 0.5, 0.5 maybe, and then set this to like maybe 150 or 160, something like that. And it is actually working, but they're not really facing the right direction, and that's because our mesh renderer doesn't know to face, like how to draw the object. So if we go face mode, we say velocity, that's us getting it actually shooting out like shrapnel now, which is kind of cool. So now what we need to do is add a little bit of gravity. So if we go to particle update, gravity, and if we pull this up just above the drag. Start to see them falling back down now. But it's kind of hard to see. So if we go in here and we override this material again, and I'm just going to put on the Poof one that we made for this. So if you click this, go back here, and then click this little icon, it'll apply the same one to this. Start to see them a bit better now, but they're kind of white. So if we go in here, say color, and exactly the same as this, we're going to do a curve. And this time we'll say bright yellow, bright red, and then maybe like white at the end. Ooh, don't need that one. Yeah, something like that. So it looks like sparks or something, which is kind of cool. But they are just despawning again. So what we need to do is add, similarly to this, like something like this curve, but maybe just a slightly different you know shape. So if we type in scale and we add a scale mesh size and we drag that up just above the speed, and we say float and then curve. So might be best to make the very initial one really big, so maybe like 5. And then it very quickly comes back down to 1. So if we add a key there and put this to 1, and just make all of this at the start an auto. See what happens? Yeah, cool. There we go. Nice. And it looks like, you know, it's good at faking the light. It looks like there's a sort of bright flash here, which is exactly what we want. Smart. So that's that one done, pretty much. The last thing to do is the shockwave, like this thing here. So if we go back in and we make another empty, and this time we're actually going to use a sprite. So yeah, we don't need to actually like delete anything, but we do need to change the way it reacts to the alignment to the camera in the player. So we go to face mode and we click on custom face vector. That will come in handy in just a little bit when we add in some parameters here. So if we then go to emitter update and we spawn instantaneous, just one I think should do, and this one let's say is 0.05, and we duplicate this guy and we say this is 0.1, and we're going to get this sort of orb type thing going on. And that's because we haven't actually changed the material yet. So if we click on this guy and we type in Shockwave V2, or you know, whatever you've named it, to this, and it should sort of come up like this. It's just like it's almost like a sort of reticle type thing. It's just following you about. That's cool though. If we go into emitter state and just follow the, basically like match this up to the rest of them, and then go to initial particle, we need to make the size mode uniform to 10 and the sprite rotation mode direct in degrees, and just say 0 at the moment. So now if we go into the update and choose sprite align and facing, this is where we actually control how it aligns with the world. So if we say up is Z, it should stay like that. So it's just gonna, it's not gonna keep looking at you like a reticle. It's gonna be, you know, looking up to the sky. Sort of how we want it to be. But we need it to expand over time. So again, just like these guys, if we click on this, scale, sprite, scale sprite size this time. And we should see it sort of moving. But this time it's going to have to be a bit more of extreme values just because it's actually real world scale. So if we say 40, cool. That's good, but it's a bit slow. So that's because of the lifetime. Scaling over how long a lifespan it has. So let's say it's 0.3. Okay, yeah, so that's working pretty well. But it's like kind of just, again, immediately dying off. So what we need to do is add a color. A curve. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to like use this guy and maybe make it like a sort of yellowy sort of color. Pull this along. Maybe make it a wee bit more yellow. Yeah, cool. And then if we pull this along to here so it's a bit more solid for longer. And maybe make like a sort of in between there. Maybe make this a little bit less green. Maybe make it like this. So yeah, cool. Cool. Right, so if we save that, compile, go in here, and maybe pull this up a wee bit. Cool. Yeah, that's looking nice. Obviously you guys can, you know, tweak this and change it to depending on what you need it for. But I think that's looking pretty cool. You could add some camera shake and maybe put it in a cinematic to make it look really nice. Depending on your performance preferences, you might need to scale down the amount of particles. But if you guys have any issues or any questions about how you do this, or you know, any issues or whatever, just leave a comment down below and I'll have a look. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.